this is the one. This is the album of the year. It's not our albums of the year. But I think
That's
this
fair.
is the album of the year for the world.
That's a good way to put it. You put 2 dance albums on your year-end list. This is amazing. This is
dance music.
This is unprecedented. It's never going to happen again.
You just fucking blew my goddamn mind. I cannot believe you didn't pick something else. Welcome to Every Album Ever with Mike and Alex, the podcast where we listen to every single album in the world, one artist at a time. That's usually a whole discography per episode, except when we hit the end of another year just like this. My name is Michael Mansour, and I'm joined, as always, by my happy, festive, and excited co-host, Alexander Volt. Say hello.
So excited, also stressed out. It was a hard one this year.
Dude. Year-end episode, for those who don't know, we usually cover full discographies of a specific artist or a brand new album. The year-end episodes are like a time to just reflect on all the usually pretty great albums that came out this year. And what did we say last year for 2023 was like, dude, this year is ridiculous. This year is ridiculous. If next year just comes a little bit close and fine, and then this year is this was the most difficult year-end episode that I've ever done.
I agree, ever. Because you usually, except I think like the year I picked like King Woman as my number one, that year
2021. Yeah.
That year felt off for reasons. And then usually though, most years it's like things like they just really stand out and grab me. And I'm like that. It's like, it's hard, but it's very clear to me the way to order it and the way it's going to end up. This year, I am splitting fucking hairs. I'm 100% leaving a number of what I consider like 5-star albums off the list. And I realize there is like this thing where it's like, there's what I listen to a lot. There's what like blew me away. Also kind of rare in the beginning of the year to have such like strong albums. Like since we started, like the first year we did album reviews, like we started off with like a pretty okay pop album. And then it got like better as the year went on. We started off so hot this year. It just like a plateau of excellence. It didn't really drip or drop. I maybe only listened to like 2 albums that I like fucking hated and not on this show. And so it was just hard when everything is the bar. Everyone is at the bar. It's fucking insane. It's
insane. And I said it in previous episodes that this year, I don't know how many artists I feel like put out their best albums this year. And and the fact that it's more than one is already like, geez, Louise. This is the only year, because like you said, with past year and stuff, you kind of get a feel for which ones you like more. And then it came down to the very last couple days, just stuff that that was grandfathered in the list. That was so obviously on the list. Very last thing, like, it's gotta go. I'm sorry. It's gotta go. It's getting replaced with something. Yeah. Like, too many great albums that got the axe.
Yeah. I came to that for me, it personally, some of them were like, I've just listened to the album so much I can't cut it. It's like the opposite of recency bias, where it's like I listened to it so much, and it may not be like, I may not share like your same sentiment where I think it's like the band's greatest album, but I listened to it so much that I can't cut it.
I have albums like that also where it's not so much that I listen to it so much, therefore like I have this attachment to it. It's more like I was going to say this for our honorable mentions, which we always have a little honorable mentions section. There are so many albums on my honorable mentions list that I firmly believe are better albums, like just better albums than a lot on my list. But the ones on my list I have like I mean, we play the best personal favorite game on the show. They'd be my personal favorites. I have a specific fondness for them that I have like maybe some already memories attached to them. Even though they've only been around a year, certain memories attached to them. Certain one album will just put me in a certain mood, and I have more fun with that mood than this album that's just a masterpiece on its own. So the one that makes me feel more fun is on the list, and there's so many things like that here where I was just like, this is a flawless album. Innovative. They're doing a bunch of crazy things with it. This one, it's just catchy. I like this one more, and that's what it came down to.
It does. Those are the two. As they say, there are two wolves inside you, and that's sometimes one can override the other. Sometimes there's overlap, and sometimes you gotta pick what weighs more in your head. So
yeah. So this is an exciting one because we just mentioned that we had trouble narrowing down what would be the list in the entire history of the show. This is our 6th year-end episode. Good God Almighty. This was the most brutally difficult album of the year choice. Having to pick album of the year. This one hurts so much because it's so rare that I get a love for an album of the year, where I'm so certain, I'm confident, this is obviously album of the year, and then something else comes, and then I also feel that way about that one. This was a brutal one. Oh boy.
Usually I have an epiphany. It's duh. This is I did not have that epiphany. There were probably 5 front runners at most. I usually have 3 front runners. So this was, and yeah, I don't know. I'm going to pick album of the year, but there's 5 other albums I could argue that are also album of the year, but
there can be a lot of good arguments. I totally get someone not agreeing with my pick, but what I ended up having to do in the very end was listen to them side by side. I had to listen to them side by side, and with the very astute and smart advice from my lady friend. She's like, don't listen to that one first. I could tell you're partial to that one. Listen to that one. No, you're partial to that one. Listen to it first because it's going to hurt the other one. I was like, good choice. So I had to listen to everything in this bubble of objectivity, just to all right, how do I feel at the end of the day? I have to weigh out like stats almost. This one makes me feel this way, whereas this one makes me feel this way.
Emotional stats.
God damn it. These albums rule, dude. These albums fucking rule.
Crazy list.
So the format that we're going to be doing today is both of us honorable mentions, yada, 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 get them out of the way as quick as we can. I believe last year you gave your albums of the year first. So this year I'll go first.
Yes.
Then Alex's album of the year. And then after that, we'll be ranking our top 10 runners up. I don't know the plural form of that.
I like runners up because they're all so good. There's no, it's not even my number 10 really.
Yeah. So I ranked them from 10 to 1 of the runners up, but really they all tap in a little different part of a little different emotion, a little different. They all serve their place. And I found my final list to be a lot more diverse than I thought it was going to be. Because last year, I think 9 out of 10 of my picks we had done singles episodes on. There are less episodes. There are more albums that came out of left field for this one.
I love that for you. I've had a lot of headaches and time constraints, so I think I'm you this year. And then the things on my honor, they may have cracked the list if I had time to do write-ups, and I didn't. I fucking didn't.
Yeah. So I didn't even bother. I didn't even bother with write-ups. What it ended up coming down to, because it was so tricky, I had to first I was just listening to see if something stuck out to me, because we listen to so much music at this point. You got to find something that makes you feel something. And then I found one album that made me feel something. I was like, wait a minute. All right, this is what I'm looking for. This kind of hold on, what the fuck was that? So every time I listen to a brand new album, I would just give it a casual listen to. A casual, cursory once over listen, and if something stuck out, then I would put it on my radar, and then I'd listen to it multiple times if it stuck with me like that. There's some albums on my list where I listened to them a bunch of times before I realized how much I love them and that they deserved a spot.
Very methodical and thorough this year. I love it.
Yeah, doing our best, baby. Doing our best.
Not me, but you. Yeah. So you would go for right.
I guess I'll do my honorable mentions first. Like I said before, I think a lot of these albums are legitimately like stronger,
100% worth your time.
Better.
Yeah.
So better, maybe better albums than a lot of my list, but in no particular order, there is Absolute Elsewhere by Blood Incantation, wild ass prog rock / death metal type thing. I've seen like the album cover thrown around a lot. It's been pushed a little bit. It's got a really cool album cover, but interesting stuff. Bound by Luna Honey, which is it's as if Lingua Ignota and Swans merged. And I think Norman Westberg also worked on an album, previous album with Luna Honey. Mansuetude by Buñuel, which we've done an episode on with Eugene from formerly of Oxbow, and who was like kind enough, the band was kind enough to give us an interview for that episode. American Standard by Uniform, wild shit. This one hurt. Rack by the Jesus Lizard. It was on my list for so long. It was on my list the whole year, but it's still a great album, a great comeback album for them. I Laid Down My Life For You by JPEG Mafia. Jesus Christ, if you're at all into hip hop, please listen to that. Beautiful stuff. The Healer by Sumac. Gnarly as fuck. Yes. Not for most people. Yes. But for the most extreme metalheads. Yes. Tarantula Heart by Melvins. It hurt not to give it to Melvins. God damn it. But good album. Great album. Buzz was kind enough to give us an interview for that episode that we did earlier this year. And just like Buzz, Glossolalia by Dale Crover also gave us an interview. Also super fun album. Way different from Melvins. Super fun and garagey and kind of poppy, but very, very well-written, hooky stuff. And last on my list, another devastating one. Devastating that I had to remove it last second. You Won't Go Before You're Supposed To by Knock Loose. All right, we did a full episode on it. Crazy stuff, wild stuff. But those are my honorable mentions. Alex, what do you got?
There's a little bit a layover here. Also in no particular order. Gordy Greep, The New Sound. From Black Midi, they're on hiatus or broken up or whatever you want. That one hurt me. All these did actually. Thou, Umbilical, holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Vince Staples, Dark Times, Kendrick Lamar, GNX, Nick Cave, Wild God. Man, it almost feels like a comeback album, even though he didn't go anywhere. Also, Blood Incantation, Absolute Elsewhere. That may be my biggest surprise. I didn't expect to like that album, and I love it. It's great.
It's great. It's so good.
Modu Mokar, Funeral for Justice. Great, like Middle Eastern blues, psychedelic stuff. Satya Sena, really strong debut album.
Wow, it didn't make your list. I'm blown away. Holy crap.
Page is so nice. I love that dude. But I love what they're doing, but I just think like their future's so bright. Like it's like such a promising debut album. It's amazing. Like listen to it. But like I think like what he's developing, it's just gonna be like somehow crazier. I don't know why I have that confidence in him, but I do.
It's a great album. It's wild.
Whores War. It just like scratches that like primate thing I need for the simple heavy shit. And then Suma also,
not to mention one of the best songs of the year, which is a Critters Fight song. Easily.
Or Everyday's all these have amazing
like that, yeah.
All these like if I was doing a playlist, all of these things would easily have songs. And then Sumac, The Healer, I love it. It's fucking brutal. It's Sumac. I love that Aaron Turner like went in reverse with ISIS being nice, pretty stuff, and he in old age just like doubling down on being brutal.
Insane stuff. Awesome stuff. Great honorable mentions. Man, this fucking year. All right, so Mike's album of the year, drum roll. And this was tough. Again, I had to do a side by side. And in the end, I just felt it was too flawless. I couldn't help it. It was too flawless. I hear it I hear this album in my future. I hear it when I hear it now. If I listen to it now, the way it's produced, the way it feels when it comes on, it's already like sort of in my DNA as an album I've listened to for my whole life. That's how much this album whacked me in the face. And that, my friend, is Cool World by Chat Pile.
Fuck.
Can't deny it.
Yes.
Cannot deny the brilliance. It's just genius, perfect noise rock, or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
That is also on my list. And yeah, it was a contender. It was there fighting. It was in that spot frequently for me. I think it's a fucking great pick.
Yeah, like, man, there's multiple albums honestly on my list where I remember where I was when I heard it, kind of thing. And that one was like, all right, loved God's Country, loved the first album. And funny enough, God's Country was, we didn't rank the albums back in 2022, but it was my second favorite album of the year. So it was number one runner up that year. So I was like, all right, I already love this band. I already love their style completely. I expected for it to be very good. I mean, within seconds, there's something about I don't like the timbre, like the tone, like the color of the production, where it has this low fineness to it. It has this muffled feel to it. But it's funny because I listened to it back to back with like other albums, and it seems like on a very surface level produced worse, where it's not as clear. It's not as crisp. It's not as clear, but it has this personality. And that's going to be a common thing with albums that I love this year is character in the production. It's no longer, we've become so saturated with a million different albums and media that now we're looking for anything that stands out. It doesn't need to be good anymore. It needs to be interesting or characteristic. So like for production, I want to hear something that feels distinct. It doesn't have to be anything super outlandish. It doesn't have to be this wild, crazy, different production like you don't like King Cruel, but it's a very distinct type of production. Like you'll recognize it could be something subtle like Cool World, where it has this slightly muffled feel to it, where it feels like you kind of have someone's trying to suffocate you with a garbage bag or something. And the content of the music is very fitting of that kind of analogy because it's fucking brutal and heavy, but it never goes too long without getting melodic, without getting hooky. It has perfect pacing where the opening track, I Am Dog, now just beats you with the fucking bat, and has a bunch of very different kind of interesting heavy moments. It has even like little kind of metalcore moments in there. And then the following track, which is like heavy, brutal indie in a way, where it's way more melodic. It's not mellow. It's just, it has emotion to it, where it's not just pure pain and anger.
There's melody on that song too. And I mean, yeah, the lyrics are pain and anger, but
all the lyrics are pain and anger, 100%. But it makes you feel things. The vocal hooks are very good. The vocal approaches from Raygun are, he has a very cool style where he's just a guy. He's not, you don't ever feel like he's trying too hard to do any one thing. He just does a bunch of things. He does periodic growls, but mostly this kind of hopeless wailing, not in a, wild homeless man that we love so much on this show. Just a guy in pain. It feels just very organic. The lyrics are very easily digestible. Like, there's no fancy
like
wording there. It's just, it's very straightforward. It's very easy. It's very vernacular. It's very, it's like a real person. Or it's a real person talking to you. And also, I mean, and possibly the greatest highlight of it all, taking the Korn influences and making it rule so hard. Just the same Korn type of grooves, the same the same Korn type of fucking floppy ass heavy bass. The dirty bass tone on this album is one of the greatest I've ever heard.
Particularly on Camcorder, that is the most Korn influence song on here.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. And there were because when we first covered, we did a full episode on this, and we talked about it, and I was gushing because I was riding the high, having just heard it a few times. Like, oh yeah, this is a perfect album. It's flawless. There's not a single song I don't like. There's not a single moment that I think dips. I think it's executed perfectly. And then as time went on, I hadn't heard it in a while, and I was kind of thinking back to it, and I was thinking like, okay, I love it, but I could see how that moment right there kind of dips a little bit. And this moment here it's still, I like it, but it still kind of dips. So I had that in mind going back for my final listen. Went back to my final listen. None of that. None of that crossed my mind. The entire thing, I was like, this is just a perfect album. This is just a perfect noisy, heavy album. I mean, it's sludge, new metal, noise rock, indie kind of shit, and
goth influence too.
Yeah, was it Milk of Human Kindness, where it's like the one song where they rein everything in quite a bit. I mean, relatively. Yeah, there's a lot of clean moments, and the clean moments have this. Just the writing on here, the guitar lines they have a way of making, which I think is super hard to do, and have a hard time pointing out other bands that have been able to do this, where they're able to make guitar lines and melodies feel unsettling without it just being this ugly, evil sequence of notes. If you want to make something unsettling, you can create some ambience, you can make these ugly dissonant notes, a lot of dissonant notes, like immediately kind of create that feel. These aren't exactly dissonant. These are like strange melodies that are slightly off, that make you feel unsettled, but they're not ugly. They're still kind of nice, but they just feel off-putting and disturbing. It's a really the writing is just, this album fucking rules. This is one of the top albums of the year that we've ever done here for me.
I agree absolutely, and you've done plenty of lip service to the sonic qualities of it, and now like I loved it right off the bat, and now that I've been able to sit with it and like digest the lyrics, it's this like, the American dream is dead. Genocide is available for your viewing pleasure on TikTok. And Chat Pile is just here to guide us through this fucking wasteland that is the 21st century. I do like how the lyrics will, they're specifically about certain things, but then the themes of just living in like a capitalistic hellscape can like carry out, and like on Camcorder is about Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. But I think it's cool that those like same qualities that a serial killer has also ties into like these corporations and these billionaires, and then they're able to also, and I don't know if it's intentional or unintentional, but this like weird like voyeuristic tendency with like camcorder and tape to just like also tie that in, because like you could think about how like, yeah, these people pass laws and they do reckless things that impact our society, and they live in fucking bubbles and they don't feel it. They could just sit in their fucking ivory towers and watch it and suffer no consequences. So that's, and there's plenty of other it tackles toxic masculinity, wars, people with PTSD, just grit. Like I'm with you. I love it more. Like it grabbed me sonically, and I had bits and pieces of the lyrics, but now on like multiple listens and digesting it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, that's in terms of the lyrics, where we've heard no shortage of bands and artists talking about the dark side of things. It's just, to summarize it in one general thing, but they do it in a way that feels a little more like like you're talking to someone, talking to a real person with an experience. It feels a little bit more, less pretentious, less artsy, more real. It's wonderful.
It's real as fuck.
You put all that very, very perfectly. It came. I mean, it was a tough one. But the fact that this came out in October and just like, oh fuck, hold on a second, hold on. Oh, I gotta rethink things. It was a game changer. That's from Mike.
All right.
Now, Alex.
Much like you, this was fucking hard. this went back and forth, fighting it out, and it happened relatively early in the year, and so it kind of won out by having like I listened to it a bunch of times. It's Beth Gibbons, Lives Outgrown.
Dude, you just fucking blew my goddamn mind. I cannot believe you didn't pick something else. I cannot believe. I am blown away. I'm excited. I'm super excited because this is 100% on my list. This is high up on my list. This is an amazing album. Check out an episode on it. Blown away. Go ahead.
It is much like that 1 year I picked Johansson's Drone Mass. It conjures up those similar feelings in me, and this is just so beautiful and so dark. And like with Portishead, we only have three albums, and it's just like it's solo albums are kind of, I think they were scarier back in the day. Now I think artists have like a firmer like idea of what they need to execute to like justify doing a solo album, and this absolutely nails that, where it's Beth Gibbons, but it's not. She's taken some of the like Portishead formula and made it more pure and more organic, and it's this dark album with flashes of light that's a meditation on death. It makes you feel really insignificant. There's times where you're like, this is kind of nihilistic, but she's always, there's usually some silver lining, like on Fleeting Moment. The drumming on the, like, I wouldn't expect the drumming on a Beth Gibbons album to be like phenomenal and a standout thing, but it's this like throughout the album, this like almost like mellow tribal stuff where the beats are more focused on tom patterns than, you know, hi-hat, ride, those types of things. And it's one of the best produced albums of the year. I love when the string sections on this are just absolutely phenomenal. And then dipping into like Middle Eastern influences on things like Rewind, and there's fuzzy elements, and even though it's about humans, it is cool that Rewind is more about how humans are destroying, like we're killing the earth. So there's like Beyond the Sun also feels like it reminds me of Nick Drake's Things Behind the Sun. Like they have very like similar DNA, and it's just this great trippy surreal epic you could like walk through the desert through. And then this closes out with Whispering Love, this more like traditional folk song. And it's dark folksy trip hop without the there are electronic elements here, but not nearly as heavy as Portishead.
Absolutely, all of that. You mentioned this being one of the best produced albums of the year. This is a perfect example of one of the albums where it feels a certain way. It's produced amazingly, for sure. Like the choices are very smart choices, but the fact that the rhythm section always has this sort of lo-fi layer to the rhythm section that's not really on anything else, which is a very Portishead trip hop thing, kind of, but it doesn't feel electronic. It doesn't feel like it's trying to channel any kind of trip hop or Portishead. It's just this really cool production style. And then the strings, when they come in when they need to, and you feel it, and they don't hang out for a second longer than they're supposed to. The writing is absolutely perfect. The pacing is damn near flawless. I think this is some of the absolute best. It's so difficult. I couldn't really pick a favorite song on here. Beyond the Sun is definitely one of my favorites of the whole year, though, because I mean, like, at that point in the album, it's track 9 out of 10, and you're waiting for like, okay, this has been an amazing album.
Once again,
right,
it doesn't.
And then that song comes on. I'm like, I think it's gonna dip. I'm like, okay, all right, this just seems like a regular song, and then bam, that fucking desert ass section comes in, and I'm like, this is the best song on the album. Oh my god,
Yeah.
like it does so many things amazingly. Beth her voice hasn't aged at all. I mean, it's crazy.
Timeless.
Yeah, and it's such a different album. Like I listened to this one a lot after we did an episode on it. I kept coming back to it, trying to like squeeze it in while working, and I went a long time without hearing it again. And then after stepping away for a long time, I had this, this vague memory of like, that was an amazing album. I remember it kind of feeling like this, kind of like, I just kept thinking of Portishead. It's like it felt like that. I went back to like, that feels nothing like that. It's acoustic and it's tribal and it has all these strings, and it's a really live album. It's a really live, intimate. It's intimate, but also
it's intimate, but it can be big and bombastic when it needs to be.
It does it at the right times too, and it what I believe I said on the episode was, most of the songs are dark. Almost all of them are dark, but they're dark in different ways. They're dark in an Middle Eastern sounding way. They're dark in like an evil sounding way. This one's dark in just a sad kind. They do different shades of dark. So the pacing, you never feel like you're listening to like the same type of song over and over again. It's just so well written. You could tell she spent so much time crafting these. And it probably would have been a great album if it was just straightforward fucking guitar and voice. It would have been like a great singer-songwriter album, but she went so hard with the production, with the crazy instrumentation. It's fucking amazing. This is easily one of the best albums of the year. I can't believe this one made it to your top. I'm excited that I did. It deserves a little bit of the appreciation.
I think, well, I'll wait because it's obviously on I think I know what you think I was going to pick, and it hurt me. It hurt me.
Without giving too much away, I was right there with you, and this will mark the second time I have been wrong about you picking that band for album of the year.
Yeah, we know.
The second year that I've been wrong about that.
And it's weird. They're one of my favorite bands. They're like arguably like my band, like one of my bands, but I digress.
I wonder who we're talking about, folks. They have accents. We'll just leave it at that.
I saw them. I saw them twice this year, and I listened to them more than any other artist. And I don't know what is wrong in my brain. Maybe one year it will be right in the world. I meant to say this before I said my number one, but for me, there were themes this year. It was like ugly, aggressive music, much like Chat Pile and other things that we'll get into. So it was like LA hip hop for me, which I'll get to, and there was a lot of that on my honorable mentions. And then it was like just women like throwing down the gauntlet and making amazing music. And so this band didn't really fit in either three of those camps, and that's it. Like makes it cool and unique and memorable. But yeah,
just for themes, like the only theme that I saw, I mean, out of 11 total albums that are on each of our combined, album of the year plus our top 10 runners up, only 2 of them are American. My whole list is all from all over. That's like the only thing I was able to, because like stylistically, these are fucking all over the place for me.
I got like nothing. Well, outside of Beth Gibbons, it's like a lot of Americans on my list.
A lot of American.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one, I don't know. I don't remember how much it caught you off guard, but I remember it being a real surprise when we did the episode. Like,
I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we thought it would be good, but this is outstanding.
exactly. I thought worst case scenario, it's serviceable. I wasn't expecting to fall in love with it.
Yeah, it's incredible. You simply must hear it. I could see also it being an easy one to sleep on because you think anytime you, I mean, it's just the curse of like someone
Solo
coming back
artist.
after a long hiatus.
The hiatus and the, traditionally throughout the years, a solo album is not really like, it's kind of considered indulgent, or you're leaving behind these people who helped you create great music. And like, I think now in the 21st century, I think there are a lot of people who like understand, like, if I'm going to do a solo album, I need to bring the ruckus or do something totally different.
I think, yeah, exactly. I think another preconception is that you imagine the solo album to sound a lot like the thing they came from.
That can be a hurdle too, if it's too similar. Yeah,
exactly. You get a lot of that with like, Frank Black in the early days and stuff, and where he's cool, but he didn't really evolve all that much past Pixie style. And this is just, her voice is, you recognize her voice as that, but the composition, the presentation, it is a brand new fucking thing. It is a super unique style. It's so damn good. Any fans of dark music, and it's too gorgeous not to like it. It's very accessible. It's super accessible.
And that's how you go 35 minutes without even cracking the top.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But these are just there are so many great albums, but these ones, I mean, they attacked our soul.
They did.
But now, starting from 10 all the way to our
11.
first runner. Starting from 10 to our first runner up. Yeah.
Got it.
So now we're narrowing down our ranking the top 10 runners up. So for me, number 10, and that is one of your honorable mentions, Wild God by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, baby.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Homeboy made it onto the list. He made it onto the list. Check out our full episode on that. It's been about 5 years since Nick Cave has made it onto one of my year-end lists with it was Ghost Teen from 2019. And this one, honestly, I don't think it's quite as good as many of the honorable mentions. Because I have problems with, there's like little nitpicky things I have problems with. Like, I don't know so much.
Mike, we know. I called you out on them.
Yes, you sure did. Things like, I don't love his new singing style so much as his older one. I don't love like the choir way it was produced. I don't like the voice of the choir so much. There's little nitpicky things. What came down to it was the memories that I made listening to this album, one with my lady friend, and then others like talking to you about, like songs like Oh Wow, Oh Wow, where it's the songs that just hit a certain part of my soul and made me feel shit. That's probably the biggest recurring thing about this list. Songs.
It's the most. It should be the most important thing when you're consuming art.
Yes. Yeah. Like plenty of songs were great songs, but songs from this album made me like feel still like, oh shit, I feel like I'm transported somewhere now. I'm feeling super emotional. I don't think it's the best song in the world, but I'm feeling shit from it. I'm being moved by it. I'm enjoying it. I want to come back to it because it's giving me an entire different experience that these albums definitely aren't. So it's also my favorite of the Warren Ellis collaboration era of Nick Cave. To this day, I will never, ever stop missing Mick Harvey. Mick Harvey is the fucking man. He was the Nick Cave collaborator since the birthday party. And he's, one of the most, I think, underappreciated artists in modern music, because what he brought to the Bad Seeds was just, the second he's gone, it's a completely different band. And it's still great because we still love Nick Cave and he's still being adventurous and original. But Mick Harvey he was just a smart guy when it comes to music. Warren Ellis, obviously super talented violinist, but I don't very much like his writing choices. I don't really like him as a songwriter at all. This album is the first album that like feels Bad Seedsy. It doesn't feel like Mick Harvey Bad Seedsy, but the pacing of it, you get a little bit of everything that he's been doing in the past, 15 years or so, where we get like the super floaty, angelic, rhythmless kind of, heavily gospel inspired kind of stuff. And then we also get some snappy 4/4 rhythms. hooky ass bass lines like on what's the song? Was it Frogs?
Yes.
If I'm not Mr. Yeah.
Personal favorite of mine off the album.
Great. Yeah. It might be my favorite as well, honestly. Great. And then you get just these dark, super dark, beautiful ballads like Cinnamon Horses and Long Dark Night. And then of course, Oh Wow, Oh Wow, which is just devastating.
It's like the standout track on the album.
God, it's just devastating, but it's happy and it's lively, but you feel the pain in it. And
it's kind of like a wake where you're remorseful and you're sad, but it's like we want to celebrate this person still.
Yeah. Celebrating something that, bittersweet. It's a bittersweet song, 100%. And yeah, this one was always, it was always like kind of like on the chopping block of the list. Like I like the album a lot. It's definitely, I like this one a lot, but there's other albums that I think are better, but I just couldn't bring myself to remove it from the list because it just holds such a place with the way they make me feel. My lady friend ended up being a very big fan of this and she started showing it to her mom. And it just feel like it just kind of stuck around.
Like you said, it left an imprint on you. And it like when you look back on 2024, you'll probably like heavily associate this album with the year.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's I could safely say it's probably the only Warren Ellis era Bad Seeds album that I see myself returning to.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a big endorsement.
Yeah, it's good. I'm glad that I was very happy like overall with how it came out, and yeah, good stuff.
Absolutely
Alex?
Agree with you. And yeah, again, that is a 5-star album I had to cut because of things. So number 10 for me is Uniform, American Standard. My friend Robbie told me about this album, and then Tom told me about this album, and I was like, I have to listen to it. And much like it just shares to me, like almost in that same like DNA as the Chat Pile album, the title track is half the album. There's technically
22 minutes.
There's technically not a lot of songs on here. And yeah, it's just this unhinged man yelling in this call response thing about like meat being on their body. It's just
it's nuts, dude.
It's insane.
There's meat on my legs. There's meat on my face.
Meat on my these heavy, repetitive riffs that build. It's almost Swans-esque, but it's still unhinged, and they bring in these like brighter guitars, which I wasn't expecting, and the final 6 minutes is this like oddly like triumphant like blast beats thing. The drum beat on This Is Not a Prayer is just fucking amazing. I think it's a mixture of real drums and samples, and like it's amazing how British the singer sounds. It's
really, I didn't catch that.
Like particularly that song. It's like this industrial noise sludge, and then a song like Clemency, this like scratches that Luddite part of my brain that I love. It's some of the biggest, heaviest, nastiest riffs of the year on Clemency. And what a fucking album.
Absolutely crazy stuff. Yeah. I remember when I added it to my listen list, and I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm so excited to hear this album. Track 1, 21 minutes. Like I was like, what what? Yeah, that song alone is a hell of an experience. It's
hard to pull off a like 10-minute song that's brutal, and these guys said 20 minutes. Fucking nuts.
And it really does work. There's that bright guitar riff, the first bright guitar riff that kind of occurs. It just reminds me of like the Beavis and Butthead theme a little bit, which I was like, oh, this rules. It's like a very heavy, cooler version of the Beavis and Butthead theme song. But the vocal performances are absolutely unhinged. It's a gnarly, brutal album. This of course would have made it onto the list in a different universe, and easily could have. I found myself not loving maybe the riffs as much as I love like the presentation and the arrangements, but it whoops your ass in a very, very inventive way. This is heavy music in a very creative. Because like when I think of like that whole intro section, the call and response thing, the acapella call and response thing,
Mhm.
I think of Melvin's on
for sure,
Bright Screen Murder or whatever.
Yeah.
Except that's like a traditional
Like
army,
military. Yeah.
call and response. Where they're saying, this is fucking terrifying. This is, good stuff.
Yep.
It's number 9. My number 9. This one is a last minute.
Oh, shit.
Caught me off guard. Last
Mhm.
minute. It wasn't gonna. I heard it once. I'm like, that's really good. I like that. Not gonna make the list. Came back to it. God damn it! And that is Via Negativa in the Doorway Light by Xeno and Oaklander.
Oh, so
Dude.
fun. So fun.
Electronic. It's dance. Like dance electronic classic. I believe they've been around for a while. I discovered them when I went with my brother Robert to see Martin DuPont. Check out our episode on Martin DuPont.
I was supposed to go to that, but my foot was broken and I was depressed and I said, I can't.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Alex. But Xeno and Oaklander opened for Martin DuPont. And during the show, I was watching it, and they're a little bit older. You could tell they've been around a while. And I thought, like, this is really not my thing. It's super dancey, very heavy rhythmic, electronic. But it was like, these are like pretty well written songs. Like it was a good performance, and I was invested in it in the whole time. And then I saw that they put out this album. We got an emailed press release for it, and I thought, oh shit, that's neat. I'll get to that eventually. And then I kept forgetting until I went to it, and I thought, like, it's gonna be like what I remember from the show. It's gonna be this fun dance music. I wasn't expecting the fucking hooks on this thing.
Oh yeah,
dude, the bass lines and hooks. I can't believe how creative and inventive they are, and how unexpected almost all of them are. Because this music is it's very simple rhythmically. It's very dancey. It's very simple in that regard. Most of the songs are they revolve around a fairly simple bass line, or maybe not the most simple. Maybe it's not super simple, but it's simple enough compared to some of the other shit that we have on here.
Sure.
It's just, bass lines, regular time signature, rrhythmic, dancey, electronic. All of these fucking bass lines go places I am never expecting them to go. And that is so, I've never ever given dance music credit for that, because when you hear dance music, you know exactly what the fuck it's doing. It's made to make you fucking move. That's
sure.
Or move and fuck. That's all it's made for. These are well-written songs, super catchy bass lines, unusual bass lines, quirky kind of dark, but in a campy kind of way, like campy dark bass lines. And then the synth melodies. Some of this shit just sticks in your head forever. I mean, I can't name drop it because I didn't take notes on specific songs, but dude, I think I'm thinking of Actor's Foil, which is track 5, where it makes you think of old, Super Nintendo video games where the music in those old games, not only was it super duper catchy, it looped, so it's stuck in your head for forever. That's what I feel when I hear this. You hear these just unusual, kind of lengthy, drawn out melodies that go to places you're not expecting, but they're always just interesting. They're always interesting. They're never ugly or like abrasive or just strange for the sake of strange. They're always catchy, but they're new. It's like when I hear this album, I just picture like this dude's brain just works differently.
Absolutely.
Because he's not making crazy difficult music. He's just putting notes in places that you're not expecting them. And that excites the fuck out of me. I have so much fun with that. I was absolutely delighted. And it's a super short album. It's fucking 30 minutes. That's probably going to be a theme.
It's fun. It's dark. It's a breeze to listen to. It's
delightful. And it has, I hope I'm not misremembering. I think they're married. It's a woman vocalist and, a guy doing all the, well, he sings too, but he sings a little bit more backup and then does all the programming and synthesizers. And yeah, there's, the vocal choices are always very understated. They're very simple, but it's so inoffensive. Like the presentation of it, there's no like bold, obvious, like, hey, look at me trying to stand out moments of it. It's just a fucking strong constructed album. Like there's, even though I like a lot of the bold choices of an album, like American Standard from with
Mhm.
Uniform, you hear the boldness of like, we're going to start with these crazy screams that you can't ignore how in your face
Yeah.
this is. There's nothing really in your face about this album. It's just, we're going back to the basics, baby. Strong bass line, strong melodies. There it is.
Yeah.
And that's why I fucking love it.
Awesome. It was fun. I listened to it
Hell yeah.
once. It's fun. I'm glad it's on your list.
Oh yeah. Number 9 for Alex.
My number 9 pick, my dark horse pick for like one of the hip hop albums, and like I'm sure the few hip hop it's probably gonna drive them crazy that like Kendrick is not like on my top 10.
Who cares, baby? It's all about how you feel.
I'm going with his label mate. I'm going with Schoolboy Q, Blue Lips.
Ooh.
And this album like caught me off guard. I like Schoolboy Q. I don't love him. Fans of the podcast will know how hesitant I am to say an artist has matured, but this to me is unlike anything he's ever done, and lyrically it's like so obvious too. Like he's older, he's in a different place. I think of like his music being like very fun, and this is like a weird like samples start to finish are like so unique, so different, and like pop is just like it's dirty, it's grimy, it has fucking Rico Nasty on it. I'm
Yep.
here for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then like Thank God for Me, it's like hyped, but it's surreal. And then Yearn 101, it's like this dark cyberpunk dystopia, but Schoolboy Q brings this like energy to it. What else stands out to me? Like Cootie sees him being like reflective and grateful for the life he has, and there's this like crazy piano sample, but it's in the background just enough where it doesn't, like, I think if it was bought more forward, it would kind of be off-putting, and all these songs are done by different producers, so it's just crazy to have this cohesive, like, dark vision for it. Cool, dark, more mature, amazing beat making from everyone involved, regardless of their background. Sure, Kendrick had a landmark year, but you know, his label mates and his buddies need love too, and I'm here to show love to Schoolboy Q.
Hell yes. I did take, you did some of this album. I did take note of the samples. Good ass beats.
Amazing stuff here.
Hell yes. My number 8 is an album that we discussed earlier in the year, and that is, baby, The Chaos of Flowers by Big Brave.
I'm gonna stop you right there because that's also my number 8.
Also your number 8. Holy shit.
Not just is it on my list, it is also number 8.
Dude, we got the same number 8. Look at that. Holy hell, dude. This album, man, this is my favorite Big Brave album since A Gaze Among Them from 2019. I had, I mentioned on the episode that I had, despite being a fan of them and enjoying what they do more or less, or like overall, the past few albums that they put out, I've not been that into. Like I put them on, I'm into it, and then halfway through, I realize they've been playing one note for half the album, and then they play the same one note for the other. I'm like, okay, all right. It's sludgy. I like sludgy. I need more. And this album does more.
I think, even though you said that, it's a slow, challenging album that rewards patience and repeated listens. It is, I will probably say, like you last year, where you're like, one of the best songs of the year. This is one of the best sounding albums. I love the way this is produced. This is produced like a beast. Like, you feel everything. Like, it's one of those albums where it's like, it feels like it's in the room with you when you listen to it. And I've recently learned about a small niche genre called Gothic Country. I think this album, although I don't think the band would want that label, but I think this album does fit in that very like particular subgenre. Because
what else? What is it? What else? What about it though? What is the hell is goth country?
Not goth, gothic.
Oh, gothic country.
Gothic.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's this like it mostly involves bands in Denver, Colorado, and it's just taking country music and making it dark and seedy and like maybe throwing in some like Latin influences, maybe like, and so that's why I think this fits in there because there is a like a Western vibe with these guitar riffs.
yeah.
And then, but the subject matter is very like it's very dark, and that's the other thing with gothic country is the vocals don't always sound like country vocals. Like I guess like the go-to person would be like Wovenhan. For those of you who know, but like I would also like 100% like that Lingua album from last year is 100%.
Oh, the Saved Reverend Kristen.
Yes, that is 100% in this. This is maybe more like adjacent, but I'm getting hung up on a thing no one really cares about. But I love that like the like Western like dark country riffs flowing through this like very like loose but focused album.
Very loose but focused. That is the fucking game here. Because for one, you're saying it's one of the best produced albums because yeah, casuals or first time Big Brave listeners will be maybe surprised here. There's no bass in this band. You feel some bottom on this. This is a heavy fucking album. There's no bass, but yeah, it sounds like there's plenty of bass, and the drums are so minimal. They're so sparse. They come in every now and then.
Shout out to that drummer for using restraint and just she deserves some sort of reward for just like the restraint and how little she is like featured on here.
What was that old meme about bassist for Deaf Heaven falls asleep? That's the drums for Big Brave.
Yeah.
Because, like many times in songs, it'll just be like an occasional hi-hat, smack. And so it's really minimal in that sense. But the riffs, whereas the past maybe two albums before this, big open notes, and it hangs on that for a fucking 30 seconds. And then these are riffs. And like you said, they have that westernness to them. But of course, vocals have Big Brave vocals are Big Brave vocals. She has her style. It's a cool style. She has a cool sounding wail. It sounds even better combined with these riffs. I think her voice sounds better than ever here. And
I agree. It's very apparent on I Felt a Funeral, the opening track. Like her,
dude,
like you said, like she has her style, but there is, like I said, this feels like she's like in your ear listening to that.
Yeah, the opener is all you need to get a perfect example. It's a great opener, and it is all you need to know if you're on board, because that is the best representation of the album. My only gripe with the whole album, I didn't catch this on the first, when we did the episode. I caught it this time. How in the world is Theft not just the same riffs as I Felt a Funeral? Like, are those the same fucking riffs?
I kind of thought that, but to me, Theft is it's darker and more haunting than I Felt a Funeral, and it doesn't get quite as big and bombastic as I Felt a Funeral. I'm sure they have some similarities, but in my brain, I was like, no, they're different. They're different.
The different songs, it's also in a different time signature and it has a different feel, but I think the actual riffs are very similar riffs. That's like my only complaint, is that those songs from a riff of writing standpoint are very similar. But still, like songs like Canon and Canon, even which is one of the most experimental songs at this point, is a Chanson pour mon ombre, the only French song I think that they've done in a while, fully in French, and it's like very experimental. Even that lands. It's like, it's a album that requires patience for sure, but God, man, because hadn't heard it in so long. I knew I wanted it on my list. I liked it so much when I first heard it, but you got to listen to everything. There's so many good albums. Put it on within seconds. I was like, oh baby. Yeah. This one's staying on there. It just, you fucking want to, it pumps you up, man. It's slow. It's slow as shit. It's not very energetic. It's not very, it's not the kind of music like you want to like work out to, but there's something that it fills you up. Something about it.
Yeah. It's just a heavy, fuzzy, when it is heavy and fuzzy, it's this something you let wash over you, and it's amazing. And much like you, it's so interesting how it like almost didn't make my list, but then it like usurped other people, and that like happened with something else later on. But agree, it sounds like we have very similar, like on the same page about this album, to the point where we even ranked it the same. That's
the first time that's ever happened. Holy shit.
So I guess you will do your number since
7. Yeah. So number 7 for me, one that I battled with this. I listened to this album. I don't know how many times I listened to this album thinking like, I like it a lot, but I can't justify putting it on my list until the end of the day. It made me feel too many things. It made me feel too many. And that, my friend, is Vida Blue by Mamaleek, baby.
Ooh.
Oh, dude, this Mamaleek, their last album, Diner Coffee, made my 2022 list, and new fan of the band for sure. Because I was very shocked by that album, the way it combined extreme metal with jazz, and I was excited for this. I wanted to do an episode on this album, but we didn't get around to it. I on first few listens, I thought like, okay, I don't like it as much as Diner Coffee for sure, but it's also with a band like Mamaleek, it is not even remotely trying to be the same kind of album. They do whatever they want. They do it all, baby. And this is it's such a bizarre album because it'll do so like their style of extreme metal. For one, their style of extreme metal vocal is very doofy. It's a lot of like, it's really not for everyone. It's abrasive. What I like about it,
for every extreme music fan.
Yes, it's a little difficult, but I can see why it would annoy some people. But I like the way it's usually produced. It's usually produced in a way that's very ambient and distant and kind of hopeless sounding, like a guy yelling from a cellar. That's kind of like how I feel it's produced. But one, it's not a short album by any means. It's 52 minutes, but it has so many great moments, so many great little hooks and riffage. And then there'll be maybe a particularly lengthy song, and it's doing this one thing for a while, and then it'll just take a fucking turn, and it'll become the most beautiful thing you've heard all year. And it's like the prime example for me on this album is track 4, which is Ancient Souls, No Longer Sorrowful, which is it's an almost 8-minute song, and it's this cool song. It's this kind of interesting. It's a very unusual. All the songs are unusual. It's easier to say that than to try to explain what they fucking sound like. Very unusual, kind of heavy, really abrasive. And then toward the final chunk, maybe like middle of the song, this piano comes in. This heartbreaking, dark, dirgy piano, gorgeous. And then it's like all of a sudden I'm feeling just a swell of emotion, and then bam, band comes in playing the same riff of the piano, and that's heavy and it's emotional and it's dark and it kicks ass. And then one thing that Mamaleek, in the 2 albums that I've heard from them, that they do incredibly, they have a tendency to make their transition songs the most, they put you in someone else's memories. That's what it feels like. For this one, it's Momentary Laughter Concealed from My Eyes, which is a 2-minute transition song. It's jazzy, it's melancholy, it's absolutely beautiful. It feels like you're reliving someone else's memory. It feels like you can see images and pictures, but they're kind of blurry and they're bleeding in with other images, and it just puts you in this state. So many songs here do that, where they just come out of nowhere with this moment that like I'm super emotional. I don't know where the fuck did this come. But then the other end of that spectrum is the crazy abrasive weird. I mean, it's fucking weird, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
these dudes get gnarly. There's moments on here that I definitely don't like. Like track 6 is Black Pudding served at the horn of the altar, which is another gnarly, hilarious title. And these titles are nuts. But it's like, okay, I don't love that. I don't really love that. But then it'll follow it with other shit. Like one of the best songs of the year is the fucking 10-minute long Legion of Bottom Deck Dealers.
Mm-hmm.
This song, man, it does so much shit. It'll make you feel so many different things. These dudes are, I don't know what the fuck they're on. Like, I don't even remember where they're from. Where do you remember where they're from?
Were they the Bay Area?
Yeah, you're right. No, so you know what? There's 3 albums total. I forgot these guys were from the US. Yeah. Bay Area, yes.
They're
dude,
so weird, I forgot they were from the US.
Exactly. They're so weird, I forgot they're from the US. I don't know what the fuck these dudes are on. Like, because for one, you hear that they're extremely talented. That you can hear the jazz influence all over all this, especially from the drums. And it's not like, because when I think of jazz in metal, I think of stuff like Atheist, which I like. I really like Atheist's second album, but it's a band that fucking, it does this. It does a thing. It's very sharp and cleaned up. And a lot of bands, metal bands that implement jazz elements tend to be very technical and tight and shiny and cleaned up. This is definitely not that. Like, when these guys do jazz rhythms, they do jazz rhythms, but they feel grimy and they feel loose and they feel a little bit ethereal and spacious. And then their version of doing metal is never a chunky, compressed, Metallica tight. Everyone's playing the exact. It's always this dirty, fucked up, kind of shitty, almost. It sounds like a shitty distortion pedal. Like, it sounds like cheap equipment, but playing these brutal, heavy, these metal riffs. It's just you can put on paper, this is jazzy and this is metal and this is fucking, I don't know, piano and weird experimental stuff. But when it comes together is something unlike anything it's Mamaleek. It just sounds like Mamaleek. That's like you just have to hear this band to know what, because they're doing things of genres and it sounds nothing like the genres. You could just call it that. That's really what this album does and what this band does. I couldn't deny it. End of the day, I couldn't deny it.
Oh yeah, I gave it a once over. I was like, I don't like it as much as the last one. It's too stacked. On to the next album.
That's what I thought too. Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I'm 100% going to revisit it. They're unique and a gem of a band.
Yeah. You're number 7.
My number 7 was on your honorable mentions. It's the Buñuel Mansuetude album.
Mansuetude, yeah.
And it's another album that like caught me by surprise and very similar to the Beth Gibbons one. I didn't know what I was getting into. It's not Oxbow. What is this going to sound like? And to my surprise, a few songs, it's like thrash metal for weirdos. Not everyone, not every song, but definitely the opener is.
Oh yeah.
Like High Speed Chase, and it's just, I forget the guitar player's name, but this guy,
Jabi.
Yeah, just bringing unique, heavy shit. The album's a little long, but like the riffs are just so crazy, and Eugene is such a like top notch like noise rock artist that even with its flaws, it's still really strong to me. You get things like Drug Burn, where it's like these electronic math rock riffs. There's moments where it's like dipping into like traditional hard rock very briefly. And that like Class, it almost sounds like a traditional like 90s grunge song, but then it gets like messy and out of control, and it's great. There are a few tracks where it's like spoken word over white noise. I forget the one that closes the album works the best.
A Room in Berlin, yeah. That's
Yeah,
the
that
closer.
one works best for me. And then we've been talking about, bands pulling like these military chants. Pimp is this one of the most unique takes on that, up there with the the uniform song.
Yeah, this album, of course, was on my list and then didn't make the cut at the very, very end. And the interview that Tom got us with them, that's on the episode, learned a lot of interesting tidbits. Like for Drug Burn, that crazy Matthew riff is actually just a guitar pedal arpeggiator.
Oh,
which
shit.
is like, that's I've never heard of that before. That's pretty fucking cool. And then also that the drummer doesn't use a double kick. He just uses a tom, baby. And it fucking sounds, it's nuts. It sounds so good. It's so tight. I mean, these songs whoop your ass. And the experimental moments are definitely like ones that are going to turn people off, or either you like it or you don't. I also enjoyed that in the interview, Eugene was very much conscious of like, no, man, I mentioned in the episode that the problem that I had with songs like A Room in Berlin, and I forget the other one, it might've been Movement number 201, where it kind of sets you up like it's going to build into something and it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And he was laughing like, yo, no, yeah, that's absolutely, that was like the point of like, no, it's going to build up. Nah, fuck you. We're not doing shit. Like it was so intentional for them to like set your hopes up. I didn't like that personally. But it is a very interesting choice. The album is super creative and it's produced very, very well. Super tight performances too.
So yeah, we did another album we got an episode on if you want my more in-depth thoughts on it.
Hell yeah. My number 6, this one I thought was going to get a almost a courtesy entry on my list at the very bottom.
That's also how I feel about my number 6. What if it's the same album again?
That'd be hilarious. It was going to be number 10. It found its way to number 6, To All Trains by Shellac.
Yes, it not the same, but of course you got that,
dude. So obviously with the passing of Steve Albini this year, which we did a full memorial episode on him.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the week before that, we did a full episode on Shellac, so go check that out. And yeah, this To All Trains, this was, bittersweet is the term for the episode, honestly, for a lot of these albums. But for this album in particular, this is the bitterest of sweetest because it's my favorite album, my favorite Shellac album since 1000 Hertz, which came on fucking 2000. It was my favorite. Albini's guitar has sounded since 1000 Hertz, maybe even before that. Like it's one of my favorite Albini guitar tones. I found the songwriting to be the strongest, the pacing to be some of the strongest. It was like, oh man, they're back doing it's still Shellac for sure, but these songs are just more interesting. They're hookier. There's like some fun quirky songs like I think it's called Scabby the Rat, if I'm not misremembering, where it's just like a minute and a half long where it sounds like a fucking superhero theme. Some of the songs here just hit really hard. The elephant in the room of elephants in rooms is the closer.
In one room.
The closer, I Don't Fear Hell, which is like, oh come on, dude, he wrote that right before he died. Come on, what the fuck? That's really eerie, really eerie.
Mm-hmm.
The way it ends is it's crazy how poetic and appropriate that Steve Albini's final album ends the way that song ends, with him talking about how he's not afraid of hell pretty much, and then the final seconds of the album is this buzzing flow, like flailing warping whammy bar guitar and bass thing, just like it sounds like flies buzzing. Mm-hmm. It's just this winding down like a giant computer just powering down. It's like something about that, like especially with his musical legacy of this clangy guitar. Like he is like the clangy guitar god. He is the guy who made the clangiest of all guitars. And the album ends with a clangy guitar powering down. Yeah.
To the point where I didn't say it, but even on the Buñuel album, there are songs where I wrote Steve Albini-esque, that like that guitar tone and sound or whatever you want to call it is this like so unique and associated with him.
And in recent years, for the past couple albums of his guitar tone has been extremely muted compared to, I mean, it's never, I mean, Big Black was obviously like the clangiest and scrapiest. And then Rape Man was also very, very scrapey sounding. But Shellac, he kind of ditched reverb entirely. It was still scrapey, but it had this kind of buzz quality to it. And then on albums like fucking Dude Incredible over there behind me, it became very contained and very like not a normal guitar, but normal for Albini. And then this album, it brought back like the buzziness. He started he's using like a lot of whammy here. I'm just talking about Steve, even though there's plenty of other great stuff here from Todd and Bob. But I took note because like the guitar is like one of my favorite things about Shellac, and the fact that he was doing things that I found were so much more interesting than he's done in 20 years, that I was excited and like, oh fuck, this is actually like, this is one of the Shellac's best albums. Oh no, he's gone. And not to mention Todd is, I think, one of the most underrated noise rock drummers ever, because his choice is always like, I think we often as a human society take minimal drum choices for granted, where if we take someone like someone beloved, maybe someone like Lars Ulrich, and we look at a song like fucking Sabbath True, okay? We take for granted a thing like, you know, in the very beginning, the where he's just hitting a hi-hat. He's hitting a hi-hat. If he was doing a beat over that, it wouldn't have any impact at all. But he decided, no, we're hanging on the hi-hat for this. We take it for granted because we know the song, or it seems like a simple choice. But a lot of people would put a fucking drum beat there, and it would ruin the impact of the verse that follows. Simple. That's Todd. That's Todd in a nutshell. He hangs back. He holds back. He does little things. Where bass and guitar are doing this very steady riff, playing like fucking 4/4 steady rhythm. He'll just stop playing. He'll stop playing. They'll just be playing by themselves, and he'll just do a good. He'll just come in with these very minimal little slight fills on toms or something, and those arrangement choices are all over the album. It's, I don't know, it's also 28 fucking minutes. It's one of their shortest. I think it's the shortest album. It's very consistent. It's a breeze to listen to. It's fun. It has some of the coolest choices, funniest lyrics. Albini's lyrics are always super funny. And also completely and utterly devastating because it's the last Shellac album.
Absolutely.
Number 6 for Alex.
I don't know how my brain works, where this was like a literally last second addition, and it like somehow usurped almost half my list. I don't know how my brain works. I don't know how it works. Anyways, it's Godspeed, You Black Emperor. No title as of the 13th of February, 2024. 28,340 dead, referencing the deaths in Gaza and Palestine.
We have a full episode on it. It's also on my list. It's not number 6, but it is on my list. Yes. Excellent.
Amazing. We talked about how, and that was kind of a theme where I was like, excellence throughout the year, high bars. This is the band that is excellent all the way through, where we just keeping that up, people take it for granted. And it almost, I don't know how it went from not almost making my list, but like when I was thinking about it, I was like, this is really powerful shit. And it's one of the few album, like the whole album's great, obviously, but it's like, it's one of the few albums where I think like the back half is somehow stronger than the first half, and it's no slouch either. And this to like convey these feelings and emotions without words, and it's like from Pale Spectre Takes Photographs to Gray Rubble, Green Shoots. That's roughly of my my favorite 20 minutes in music this year. It's not exactly 20 minutes. I'm this
around like 18 minutes or so.
It's phenomenal. It's performed masterfully as they always do.
Godspeed is a band that is easy to take for granted because they've been so good for so long, and they haven't really changed that much. They kind of do more or less the same type of thing every album, but it's always really, really moving. It's never not moving. And this album, while I didn't enjoy it quite as much as 2021's was a Godspeed at State's End or whatever, it's still prime Godspeed. There was the one moment I didn't like on the album because it just teetered too much on garage rock for my taste. Even then, it's still a good song, and I still find myself not being so bothered by it. But the highs here, I mean, Jesus Christ, they are devastating. They're so so you're a bigger fan of the second half, which goes into darkness.
Yes.
It goes into darkness. The first half is a lot lighter. It's a lot lighter. My standout track for me is Babies in a Thundercloud, which is
very
horrible.
Good. It's very good.
Horrible song title, but beautiful stuff. It rings in my head. It's one of my favorite songs of the year. And 13 and a half minutes that just flies by, baby. And but the second half, I mean, it's so dark, and it does things. I believe it's Pale Spectator, where that fucking bass line is just this super cool, dark and kind of mathy and teetering on a noise rock type of bass line, which really don't get that often with these guys. And it's just, if you're a fan of Godspeed, or if you're not a fan of Godspeed, I can't, at this point, it's kind of hard to pitch a first album. I mean, the first F sharp, A sharp, Infinity is a good starting point, along with fucking Tiny Lift Your Skinny Fist. Those are probably like the ideal starting points. But really, you're not missing anything with this album. Like, you're still getting exactly why they're amazing. They haven't really, their punches haven't softened on this album.
Yeah, it was one of the ones where it hurt. It hurt me, and then you told me I didn't have enough albums, and then I was like, hold on.
And then it shot to number 6.
Shot up to numbers. I mean, like I said, all these albums, even the honorable, they are all really powerful albums, and I am just splitting hairs. Like,
yeah. This one, again, even though it's not like my favorite Godspeed album this year, I listened to it so many times, and I just kept coming back to it. And the things that I loved about it, I just ended up loving them more and more on repeated listens, to the point where I couldn't like remove it. Maybe some albums on the honorable mentions, I think, are a little bit more consistent, but it just stuck with me. I wanted to hear it more often. I kept returning to it more often. It's stuck with me pretty damn hard. And it's the same case with the last album they put out. It ended up just sticking with me a super long time.
Yeah.
And I find it to be a very good sign, and pretty rare sign, when a band can keep putting out new albums, and then that new album stays in rotation for a long time. Even because there's a lot of bands where I like them a lot, and I like their new album, but it just kind of, it gets washed out. Yeah. It gets washed out. You hear other things, but Godspeed there's a certain thing when they put out a new album, it becomes part of the legacy of God. It just fits right in. Everything becomes, I feel, this could just be a me thing, but I feel like when new bands or when a band puts out a new album, it takes a minute to settle in that new album is canon, because it's new. You become accustomed to,
it can.
You become accustomed to, like, oh, these are all their albums. It takes a while for that one to kind of settle in as, okay, it's part of all Godspeed's. For me, it's always like when they put out a new album, it's automatically so good that it is immediately part of the collection of great Godspeed albums.
Yeah, no hesitation. It's canon immediately.
Hell yeah. So that was your number 6. So on to number 5, my number 5, and this one definitely caught me off guard. Off guard. I saw that it came out. I didn't really jump at it, listen to it, and it snuck up on me, baby. And that is Rampen, alien pop music by Einstürzende, Neubauten. Fucking I've heard one album by this band years and years ago. This is
I didn't even realize they were still active. They sound legendary. I just haven't had time to check them out.
It took, believe me, and I practiced saying that the name of that band so many times before just now because I put them off. I've always had such trouble reading the name of the fucking band. It's like, oh, it's the guy, the noisy experimental band from Germany. The guy was in fucking Negativa and the Bad Seeds for a long time. Blixa Bargeld. I heard one album years ago that I liked a lot, and that was when I was 20. That was a long fucking time ago, and I never got around to them. I am vowing now on this episode, we will be covering their full discography sometime next year. They're one of my like. All right, they're one of the bands I need to cover. I'm so interested in them. I'm so interested in their style. They're such an unusual band. So this album, it's a lengthy fucking album. This is by far the longest album on my list. It's like an hour, 15-minute album. And how to describe this? It is so hard to describe in a way like Mamaleek, where you can name the things that it does, but it doesn't sound like that. It's like industrial, tribal, goth. It has elements of all those, but it doesn't really sound like a combination of all those.
Mm-hmm.
So Blix's voice, man, this fucking Disney villain of a singer. I love it. His voice is the dominating instrument on the album, and it's minimal in its performances. So it usually has like this sort of industrial tribal steady beat, but it's not like it's not really a heavy album. It usually has a very catchy bass line for most of the songs, and it usually ends up with these really, really repetitive, interesting, catchy vocal hooks. So this album is really hypnotic. It's really hypnotic. It's an album that you have to settle into. It's an album that you probably should be in the mood for. It's not going to appeal to everybody. There's a certain character to his voice that I find so interesting, and there's something, I don't know. It's an alluring voice. He has these choices with because most of this album is in German, so it ends up having this. It's such a, I can't compare it to fucking anything because it's just Neubauten. It repetitive, tribal, industrial, really catchy bass lines that vary tons in mood. There's some really dark stuff here. There's some really kind of catchy light stuff on here, like Planet Umbra, which is almost 9 minutes, but it's just like, yeah, it's a spectacularly German album. I will say that it's insanely German. So take that how you will, but certain songs on here hit me so hard that when I heard it, like the song Before I Go, which is one of the few songs in English on here, it fucking whacked me in the face. This is like one of my songs of the year, like might be my song of the year, where it's track 5, and in the first 4 tracks set up a number of things. It sets up repetitive higher energy, a little bit experimental, and it kind of sets you. It sets up the album as this thing, and then Before I Go comes on, and it's chilling. It's way more minimal. It's super dark. It has these fucking like almost xylophone sounding textures in there, and his vocal choices, they're just, oh, this is a legit Disney villain singing at me. He's doing these strange vocal and it feels amazing. There's another song at the very end called Trilobiten, and gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, where it's just this repetitive ass acoustic guitar riff, very kind of odd, dark, unsettling, melancholy acoustic guitar riff, but with these interesting tribal drums that kind of come in and out, repetitive vocals, but really hooky lines. It's an album that you put on in the background and you fucking zone out to. It is an interesting one. It ended up moving me way more than I thought. I was like drawn to it. The first time I heard it, I thought it was just going to be cool and fine. I thought I was going to hear a few tracks, get the idea, and then move on. But it kept me there, and I couldn't stop coming back to this baby. Oh, and now I'm dying to hear all the albums. So
I'm very excited to do that episode.
Maybe it's not the best starting point for the band. because I know they're really eclectic and they go all over the place, but this one struck a chord in me for whatever reason. Jesus.
Oh yeah. You used hypnotic to describe it, and that's a great segue into my number 5, which is Chelsea Wolfe's She Reaches Out to She Reaches Out to She. I love this album. I love that in like in 1 year where like I guess people don't really make trip hop music anymore, but I get these like 2 trip hop influenced albums. It's very haunting and hypnotic and like it's very like surreal too. It's inspired by her newfound sobriety, drawing influences from things like Depeche Mode and Nine Inch Nails and Tricky. And like on that opening track, Whispers in the Echo Chamber, it's like, it's different, but it's still her. It is a little misleading. I thought maybe the album would be heavy. It's like one of the few tracks with heavy guitars, but it just turns into this totally different beast, this outlier in her like discography. Like House of Self Undoing could be this like fits right at home on Portishead's 3rd album. There's these songs about like finding yourself and lyrics about these like surreal, almost like mirror worlds to reflect that. I love the way she like tied it in. I this like as someone who's like, oh man, what a like cool unique genre that had its place in time. I'm like, it got 2 like heavy influence. Well, 1 from the queen of trip hop with Beth Gibbons, and then 2 from someone like following in her path, making this like Unseen World kind of feels like a bridge between Chelsea and Beth Gibbons. And it's this surreal, electronic, but heavy, dark album. I love it. And from here on out from this Chelsea album, these were all albums that were like in my number 1 for a while.
Yeah. Chelsea Wolf, check out our full episode on the Chelsea Wolf album. That was a pretty strong one at the beginning of the year that came out real strong. The production obviously on this album is fucking bananas. It's, if you're open to this style of thing, great album. We're at number 4. Well,
yes.
Easy. We don't need to talk about this. My number 4 is No Title by Godspeed. Yeah.
Awesome.
That was my number 4. So your number 4.
My number 4 is, so you guys better grab a mop for this one because it's going to get sticky in this bitch. It's Tyler the Creator's Chromakopia.
Oh, I didn't hear this one. I only heard the one track you showed me, which I did like, by the way. I just forgot to listen to the whole thing. Suck.
He can be very streaky for me. Like the shit he's done in the past, I love. And then this makes me like recontextualize like, fuck, should I go back to those albums that I think are just okay? And like, maybe I was looking at them wrong. And he's it's so funny because, I was talking about LA hip hop and it's like, it's Kendrick's year, whatever. And like, I'm like, in my head, I was like, Tyler to me is like many people, he wouldn't even agree with me on that. Cause there is a song where he says like, I'm second after Kendrick. So like he does modest. So like he doesn't even agree with that, but it's just like, he's one of the only mainstream artists who cares about like the art of the album. Like these songs ebb and flow and bleed into each other. Again, I don't know what was in the water this year. Like the opening track, Saint Chroma, you get this like military marching thing with like this whisper rapping and these dark synths. and then these like vocals that feel very like influenced from Kanye's Dark Twisted Fantasy. And it's a great intro song because this morphs and changes. And even though these are different songs, there's always like this through line. So it does feel like you're listening to one song that's like morphing and changing. And he's very aware. This is a very like emotional album. There are like a number of like almost ballads. Let me see, like Darling I, and also you just hear like his love of like the Neptunes throughout this album. So that song has these like drop it like it's that like clicky like I don't know if that's gonna pick up on my mic, but like the drop it like it's hot. It may even be the same thing. Like it's in Darling I, and then it carries over into Hey Jane, and it's still like in there, and Hey Jane feels like a very like intimate song, but he's writing it from like the perspective of a woman. There's these like great great, I don't know if they're played or they're sampled, but regardless, this like the guitar on this album is kind of like an unsung hero. Like I Killed You is like a banger. But then the biggest banger, like the most mainstream song that I like off an album on my list is Sticky. It's just, you make songs like Sticky so people stick around for the more emotionally mature stuff. It is just like, it's this whistling thing where there's no drum beat, but when the drums come in, they hit like fucking crack. And this I did not misread. Like I usually hate Lil Wayne, but like he somehow like managed to like go back in time, and he sounds like he's like in prime form on this song. There's songs like Take Your Mask Off, where it's like a reflective song about like sexuality and people leaving these like double lives. Another like, and then it kind of, I'm leaving out some tracks as for like brevity, but then like it's always like very smartly balanced. So then you get like Thought I Was Dead, and it's just another banger, and it has like Santi Gold on it. And there's this, it's so funny. Again, I hate to use the word mature, but like from Goblin to now, he's come like such a long way. I don't think he was like, as most young men aren't, and he's this like very emotionally mature, but also there's still funny Tyler things, like he says like you walked in the party with your butt pierced. It's just a funny
picture image.
Yeah. And then there's this song Like Him about like absentee father trauma, and it basically is like one lyric repeated over and over again. There's other lyrics, but the main thing that gets like hammered into your head, and it feels so gut wrenching, is "Mama, I'm chasing a ghost. Do I look like him?"
Damn, that hurts. That hurts.
And then the song takes this turn at the end where the woman says like, "Don't be angry at your father. It's actually like my fault that he's not in your life." So it's this, and even though it's repetitive, it's a very like complex, heavy song. And then the goofiest circus shit song of the year. I wanted to hate it, but I think it just speaks to how good Tyler is. It's the one I sent you, Balloon. It's so wacky, but he just like, I'm like, please stop. Like initially I'm like, please stop with this. But he just like adds to it, and it gets so fun. And like, oh, what a like crazy journey this album takes you on. Like to me, the strongest hip hop album of the year.
Oh wow, man, that is bold, confident. God damn.
And it has been, and like I have feelings about Kendrick's album, but one, I don't want to get a diss track made against me, and two, as we've said on previous episodes, this is about joyful and shit we like and positivity. So I'm gonna leave that can of worms alone.
Fair enough. What are we at? Number 3?
Number 3.
Well, I hope you're ready to talk more because we've already done this one. My number 3 was Lies Outgrown by Beth Gibbons.
Hell yes.
Yeah. It was gonna be near the top of the list the second I heard it. Like it held that place the entire year. Like there was no way it was moving.
I heard it and I was like, it's really strong, it's really good, but can it hold on? Because I thought, I don't know what I thought. Like, can it hold on? And it sure moved throughout the year, but it reclaimed its spot.
Indeed. You're number 3.
Well, in a cop out, my number 3 was your album of the year. So I'm gonna play the reverse Uno card.
Oh, reverse Uno card on me.
Yeah. My number 3 was Chat Pile's Cool World.
Very nice. Yeah.
Man,
dude, look at that. Both of our number 3s were the other person's album. Look, that's fucking weird. All right, that's weird. We got two little synchronicities in one. That's fucking that's something. All right,
that's great.
That's crazy.
Man, it did kind of hurt taking that one off.
Yeah, it always does. For this episode, 100%. My number 2, and this could be controversial to some who maybe for those who even watch the pod and think they know my taste. Number 2, and that right here.
Oh, fuck. Yes, this motherfucker. It's video. We'll say it.
Yeah, you'll see the Infinite Desires by Donny Benét. Goddamn. And you know what? Let me just fix my background real quick.
While Mike's doing that, Mike owns like 5 for Mike to go out and purchase this, or maybe it was a gift.
It was a gift, but it was a perfect gift.
It was a perfect. So he almost made my honorable mentions, but this is crazy because like it is a great album. But like for you to think this highly of it and like and then it's just so much not your bag is insane. Like, I'm so happy. This is fucking great.
Dude, this is so not my style of album.
Yeah.
It is. What do they call it? A post-disco is what they fucking call it. I think they call it.
Yeah, we did an episode. Like, this wasn't even on our radar. Like, shout out to the power of the Patreon here.
Exactly. Because I'm not interested in it's funky, it's electronic, it's disco-y, it's got a lot of vaporwave in there. It's just stuff that I don't fuck with. It's not that I have anything particularly against it. It's just things I don't really fuck with. And this thing comes on, and track 1, I'm like, hey, this is kind of fun. This is
really fun. You put 2 dance albums on your year-end list. This is amazing.
I fucking hate dance music.
This is unprecedented. It's never going to happen again.
No. I hate dance music. I hate dancing. And 2 of those albums are on my list. And so with each successive song, it's like, oh, wait a minute. This is still really good. And then they just keep getting better and better. Like, there's so many songs on here that I think are some of the best songs of the year. And it's, just hook after fucking hook, baby. And his little, maybe sort of gimmick of the album, musical gimmick is like, he gets this very catchy hook, whatever, and he'll do a verse, chorus, standard song structure, verse, chorus, verse stuff. And then in the final chunk, in the final outro chunk, it'll come in with a fucking brand new section that is the best section in the song. And most of the songs in the albums do that. So you're already hooked in with this very dancey, very catchy, very, very fun ass song. And the very tail end of the song, it's like, oh, what the fuck? This is amazing. Every song does that. So there's not a single moment where you could lose interest. It just, the pacing is spectacular. And it has not just that, because it's pacing spectacular because of just the strength of the writing, but also energy wise, it picks it up when you need to pick it up. It slows it down and brings down the energy and brings it a little bit more smooth and sensual right when you need it to be smooth and sensual. Each song which is a characteristic thing of a lot of albums that I love, where each song leaves its mark in a different way. So like, you can look at an album that has, from a cursory perspective, is like, oh, this is basically an album full of like the same kinds of song. Perfect example, Rain and Blood Slayer. It's an album full of the same kinds of song. It's like, it's basically one long song. You can look at it like that. But the reason why that album is so great is you can look at it. Yes, all the songs are very similar, but you can pinpoint at least one thing in every song that makes it distinct. Even though all the songs are very similar, you can pinpoint a part of every song that gives it its own identity, that makes it feel like every song is doing something different, and that it keeps you on the train the whole time. This album does that, where yes, they're all dancey, they're all smooth and very smooth. You want to be driving down fucking PCH with the goddamn convertible top down listening to this. But each song has a little hook in there that fucking keeps you coming back. I never got tired of this. I came back to this album countless times.
Listen to it on your birthday.
Yes. We went back, visited LA for my birthday. And
we also listened to Dope Smoker too. And even though we told people, but people were like, it can't be that bad. And then 20 minutes in, they were like,
oh, it's still on, huh? And like, oh,
we're
not
we
even
told
close.
you. We told you.
We did put on Dope Smoker, but we put on Infinite Desires, and you have already heard the album a few times already, and you were like, all right, because we listened to the whole album and it looped around.
Yeah.
And Alex was like, all right, please, all right, it's a good album. Can we please move it on?
Yeah.
Me,
you just wanted it again.
Not only just me, the guy whose house it was, he told me like on the side, he's like, I could have just left that thing going playing on loop forever. That shit is amazing. Like,
sure,
because it's just that type of album where, it's so fun, it's so repeatable. Like it just became a comfort album. Whenever I didn't know what to put on in the car, I'm like, fuck it, throw some more goddamn Benét on there.
Hell yeah.
It made me go back into his other albums. Didn't like those nearly as much. Oh, wow. I think this is his best album.
This is like an outlier.
I think. Well, he has a fun style. He definitely does his thing. They're fine. This album is special. He has turned a page with this album. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. I fucking adore this album. God damn it! Like this is one where like I can easily recommend this to anybody. Like,
yeah, of course.
If I was turned by this, I don't fucking like dancey shit at all. I'll show this album to anybody. It rules. Absolutely rules. Hell yeah, Donny Benét, you rule.
Yeah. All right. My number 2, and I'm kind of upset it was just on your honorable mentions, because to me this album is like up there with like the Chat Pile album, where it's like game changer. It's so unique. I never thought I'd be into hardcore music, but here I am with Knocked Loose. You Won't Go Before You're Supposed to. Holy shit. What a fucking album. Start to finish. There is no fucking fat on this album. It is 30 minutes of what I'm assuming, I'm not an expert, I'm assuming is one of the most unique sounding hardcore albums since like Prime Converge era. And it fucking left me with whiplash, and like they're one of my favorite bands now, and amazing live. Like the opener Thirst, this like comes out fucking swinging. I like how they taken this like modern like slang term like thirst traps, you're thirsty, and they like lyrically are like, that's actually an awful thing to be. Suffocate, which like, shout out, I didn't even know this when we did the review, but apparently the creative driving force behind Suffocate was Poppy. Like,
I hate her. I love the song, but I still hate her. I'll give it up for the song 1,000,000%.
I love her. She also dropped an album this year. I'm glad she like realized like her space is in metal, because she like tried to like pivot to a more like pop punk thing. I was not feeling it. I don't think a lot of people were feeling it. I think it's a very like good album, but it's not a 5-star album, so it didn't even make the That's how stacked it is. You have to be 5 stars to make the honorable mentions.
Yeah.
So it's just like a cool year for her, and it was just like so cool to read that interview where the band's like, she was like real, like she reached out to us. She was like really like pushing for all these ideas in this song. And then I think it is my song of the year. Moss covers all / Take Me Home. It's 2 songs, but it's one fucking song. Brother, that's my riff of the year. That's my riff
amazing.
Of the
it's
year.
So good.
And I was like, how are they going to do this live? How are they going to do these clicky things live?
Yeah.
And it sounds so fucking, oh my fucking God. I like the feelings that like hearing that and then hearing it live at like a high level, just fucking goddamn. And then the other standout track for me, The Calm That Keeps You Awake, just these, again, more unique percussion on these like brutal hardcore. They just take hardcore, these like fucking guys from, I think they're from Kentucky, and they're fucking geniuses. I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say.
It is a wonderful, it was on my list the entire year. It was on my list until like a few days ago.
Until Donny, but
it was Donny Benét was grandfather. Donny Benét was at the top. Yeah,
I'm fucking around.
This album, it hurt. It hurt to take it out. The only reason it came down to like, this is, I think, a better album than a lot of albums on my list. I mean, this is
you did say that. You did say that.
Very good album.
Personally, yes.
Personally, I found stuff that I just, it put me in a better mood. I felt better. So I wanted to come back to the other ones more. This is
this, Chat Pile, and Uniform do not. That's like the holy trinity of nasty, brutal rock for me.
It is nasty. It is brutal. I'm like you, not a hardcore guy, not this metalcore kind of style at all. Aside from exceptions of like Cole-esque, I'm a big Cole-esque fan, but typically not like drawn to. But this is like, oh my God, what they're doing here, and what I'm noticing a lot more with bands just in general is a huge thing of this generation is, and I admire it deeply, rhythmic diversity. It's not enough to just be a good metal band, because we've heard the best metal ever for the past fucking 40 years. We know what good metal sounds like. What else can separate it? Because rhythmically, this stuff is all over the place. The arrangements are all over the place. Just the little choices that make you feel like it's hitting the refresh button on your attention span, which it doesn't need to do because the album's 27 fucking minutes. It's so short. It doesn't really need to keep hitting the refresh button as often as it does, but because it does, this is such an exciting album. It hits harder than probably anything else this year that I've heard, at least. The vocals are the one thing where I can say, okay, you might get annoyed by the vocals. I'm annoyed by the vocals. I overlook it because the album is so good, but I get that.
That's how good this music is, where I've heard bands with similar vocals and I tuned out. I said, I don't need to hear that. But the music is so undeniable. It's so undeniable. And it's a fucking, to me, it's a game changer album. Like, this is like, and maybe I'm over exaggerating, like what Deaf Heaven, and maybe not that heavy, but whatever, I'm going to do it anyways. Like what Deaf Heaven did for black metal with Sunbather, like that's what this feels like to me, where it's like, oh shit, like I wasn't into hardcore, like I wasn't into black metal before Deaf Heaven, but now I'm like, what am I missing? I need to like go into this world now.
It is, yeah, it will bring people over. It 100%, because I really have been off put by that, because what I've heard from metalcore stuff and hardcore, I get why people I get the aggressive and the catharsis of like music of that style of heavy. I get that other places. I get what that fulfills. Yeah, I get that other places. This is now offering something else that is not offered in those places. So it is 100% a special album. It is an album that it was like, I was like, oh, obviously it's gonna be on the list. I didn't even need to re-listen to it. It's obviously gonna be on the list. Then I had to re-listen to it. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Then I heard other things like, oh no. I think it was the last thing to get cut. It was the very last thing. I was like,
yeah,
fuck. Yeah. But it is spectacular. Yes, indeed. So number one, first runner up, I think we're going to agree on this one. Tank by Idols.
Yes, sir. Also my number one. And
I can't believe it wasn't your number one. I can't believe it wasn't my album of the year. I can't believe it wasn't your album. I can't believe it wasn't either of our. Always the fucking bridesmaid, never the bridesmaid, never the bride. Idols, their last album was also my number two album of the year. It barely didn't get album of the year because it was Lingua's last album that year. Mm-hmm. It was like the only reason. And this, I was like, I said in our episode that we did a full episode on this album. I said in that episode, this album would have been my 2023 album of the year. It would have been my 2022 album of the year.
Yeah.
It might have been my 2021 album of the year. Yeah. That's how much I love it. And it didn't get it this year because Chat Pile was that good.
I don't know. I adore Idols. They're one of my favorite modern bands working. I saw them twice this year live. I don't think I've seen any band twice this year besides them. I love the new directions. I sent you because I wanted to show you how badly Soul Asylum fucked up my algorithm. Like, you have my stats. You saw I listened to Idols more than anybody else this year. And it's just so heartbreaking because I think like Knocked Loose came in and that was number one for like, it usurped everything for a while because it's just like that, like shock and awe is an emotion. But I guess I'm done trying to make sense of it. I just want to talk about like how awesome Tank is.
It's unbelievably good. It is unbelievably good.
I was surprised and shocked to find out this has not been one of their best received albums.
Are you fucking kidding? The world is straight
Insane.
Retarded. I mark my words, the world will never receive my forgiveness for this.
I don't want to say their name because I forget what it, like, I'm like, usually I like get like some inspiration. I find some cool things on year-end lists. I know by their nature, they're never perfect. Even my own is a mess of a list. But like, the lack of Tank and the lack of Knocked Loose and Chat Pile on a lot of these lists is like, I don't know what's going on this year, but like,
it's why we can't trust other media sources. It's why we do this because, well, we got to know. We got to know. We want to enjoy things that we love. Why we have to know.
You know, we record an episode about this, but like the opening takes a very similar page from Crawler where it's a slow, like haunting build.
Beautiful though. Devastatingly beautiful. Piano. Lots of tape loops. Heartbreakingly gorgeous.
And then like Gift Horse. You know how fun that song is to sing live? To just like scream like, fuck the king. Him,
you ain't the king. You ain't the king.
And
she's the king.
She's the king. Like, so for some reason, Deftones had this like mini festival thing where they're the headliner, but like Idols was the number two. You know how weird? You know how fucking weird that it? Like, Deftone fans aren't there. They're too moody. They're too in their feelings.
Too ready to fuck.
I came ready to fuck and dance. Like, I felt like I was a little I was far back. I wasn't on the floor, but it was like one of my favorite moments of the year. It was raining when they were playing, but it's Idols, baby. I don't care. Bring down the thunderstorms. And just like me and a handful of people in our section, just like we're the like unabashedly like love and scream these lyrics and fuck these moody, horny people who, mind you, they didn't even show up for Health. Like, how horny are like
you can't even call yourself horny at that point.
Health is equally as horny as Deftones.
Yeah.
So that's just like, there were so many strong. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's because I blew my tiebreaker thing last year and I can't do it.
Dude, you know, so Alex, for those who don't know, Alex last year broke the show and decided, I'm not choosing an album of the year. I'm making it a tie. And I was like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
So he did that and he swore to never do it again. I thought about doing that this year because this held my album of the year since it came out. And the whole year I was just like, try and top it. I fucking dare try and top this album. This is a perfect album. It's their best album. It's one of easily and very safely say this is one of my favorite albums ever. I absolutely adore this album. And then Chappelle comes out and I'm like, oh no, how did this happen? Like what? And it made me rethink everything. I had to sit down and listen to them back to back. My lady friend knew I was partial toward Chappelle because of my intense reaction when I first heard it, and the fact that it came out more recently and I'd heard it more recently. And she's like, listen to Chappelle first because it's not going to be fair to this one. Yeah. And I was like, all right, fair enough. So I did. I was like, oh, this album is amazing. Chappelle fucking rules. This album's perfect. Yada, yada, yada. Put this on and it all floods back. Like, oh, dude, the thing, what this album does to the spirit, it takes you on an emotional journey. Chappelle has one kind of emotion. It has many different layers and it does a lot of different things, a lot of great melodic moments, but it's all very dark. This, it gives you love. It gives you sadness. It gives you fun and energy. It gives you anger and aggression. It gives you anger and aggression in a fun way. It does, like, it tackles so many different things. It's a full journey. And every song does it in a very special way. Every song is very unique and memorable in its own way. The only reason why I ended up deciding like this is not going to be the album of the year is because of, like I said at the very beginning, fucking stat points. I was weighing it out like I'm doing a fucking NBA draft where I had to like look at each song and I realized, okay, Grace, I do like the song Grace, but from a pacing standpoint, it dips it. I noticed my attention dipping slightly for the first half of Grace. I don't love the song Hollow Notes. I like the lyrics. I think it's a fun song. I don't love the song.
I love it. I think that gets overlooked because Dancer goes so hard.
It's so good. I love it so much more now than when it first came out.
It's got the LCD sound system benefit to it, but like I think this is, like I said, my top 5 or 6. All these are like no skips for me.
100% no skips. And it also, so Grace and Hollow Notes was like the moment where I'm like, okay, I like the songs, but I could see where I noticed my attention dipping a slight bit. Whereas Chappelle, there was zero dip. There was, and then Gratitude is like, oh, it's a good song. Like the song. It's the only one that probably I don't need. So it just came down to that. I think it's a perfect album. I think it's basically flawless. But when comparing it to another flawless, perfect album, you got to start splitting hairs. You got to start like, because it came down to something as mechanical as like, well, this one feels more flawless to me than this one, even though I love them both pretty much equally. Like this, and also the way this one closes with Monolith, it leaves you with more of a taste than an album like Chappelle does. It leaves you with a little bit more to chew on. It kind of rings in your head a little bit longer. It's a little bit more pretty and emotional, and it kind of lingers.
Yeah, it's a perfect closing track, and it does kind of feel like the bookend for like Idea 1. And it's just, I don't know. This band does things to me that other bands don't do. There's like a line in Roy where he says, "Dance till my feet bled. I'm never going to die." Like that is how I feel listening to this band and how I feel at their shows. That
lyric and that song, I've come back to that lyric during like really rough moments this year where I just, that line, I'm singing it in my head over and over again. I mean, that song specifically, that was the moment that I realized that things were different now. This is a special. It was Roy. I was listening to it. I was listening to it for the episode, and you know, Idea 1, I was like, oh, that's actually a really great. Holy crap! Then Gift Horse comes on, like, oh, this is really fun. Then Pop 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 comes on, which is easily overlooked. Fantastic short little like electronic driven, swell driven song.
Like sunbeams, like
Yep.
God from your face.
Yep. Yeah,
It doesn't do much for it, but they did like a remix with Danny Brown.
Oh, really? Holy
for
shit!
Pop.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So those songs are. I'm like, all right, this is a good ass album. When Roy comes on, I stop everything and I say, how the fuck is this good? How is it this good? I was so sold at that point. Roy is absolutely incredible. And then from then on, I mean, dude, you can't fuck with this album. You cannot fuck with this album.
But apparently, you fucked with this album.
Well, here's the thing. Chop Powell is my album of the year. Beth Gibbons is your album of the year.
Yeah.
This is the album that I would tell everyone, if you're going to listen to an album this year from this year,
very accessible.
It's this one. Yeah, this is the most accessible. This is the one that I will recommend to everybody. I'm not going to recommend Cool World to everybody.
Sure.
Even though Beth Gibbons is far more accessible and it's really gorgeous, it's still very moody. It's not going to be.
Yeah.
It's still very dark, and it's not going to be for everyone. This one, everyone listen to TANGK. This is the one. This is the album of the year. It's not our albums of the year, but I think this is the album of the year for the world.
That's good. That's a good way to put it. And I think, and it's so weird for me to like, because it's an apples and oranges thing emotionally. Like this and Beth Gibbons are on two very different sides of the spectrum. Like this is joy, and I'd argue you put 3 dance albums on your on your list.
Yeah, I know, right?
And it's just like, I don't know. It is the when when I'm feeling bad, I listen to Idols, and I guess I feel bad a lot, but just for a few minutes or a few hours, and this helps me feel good and make sense of the world, where like Beth Gibbons also makes sense of the world, but it's very heavy. And I do kind of miss the like I like Gratitude on this album, and I do kind of miss that like joy is an act of rebellion energy they had, because now they're arguably something totally different now, which is great for their sound, and I love it still. But there are parts of me that like miss those types of lyrics and Idols. But
right, yeah, because they were far more
like a message, and these are kind of like there's still a message there, but they're more
abstract.
Yes,
far more abstract. Because the lyrics on Joy were so straightforward, very easy to understand, and very, very, very uplifting. And
Samaritan, is it Samaritan, the one that's about like toxic masculinity, where it's like, and you'll never see your father cry, like
yeah,
that's an all-time, like in my top 10 Idols song.
That's one aspect that I felt was like, paramount to the DNA of the band that's not on here. But what I think has come in its place is good old Joe becoming wonderful singer, amazing singer with an incredible voice, great range, great, beautifully natural vibrato, which he never used before. It's like, he's like a good singer now, and it fits perfectly with everything. It's just,
and no one, all the shows maybe. No, you know what? It's like Idols and Knocked Loose for live shows that I saw this year. Like no one bought the ruckus live like those two bands.
Yeah, I would love to see Idols again. At least performing some of these songs.
Just fucking do it.
God damn. Yeah, this is.
I mean, they're workhorses. They'll probably drop an album sooner than later. So
I'm curious what the next one will be like. But it right now, like it really doesn't matter if they put out the biggest pile of shit next. Doesn't matter. They've
already cemented their legacy.
Yeah, this is so good. This is a forever album. I said that about Chop Powell during the episode we did on them, where it's a forever album. I'll have this forever. I'm going to keep coming back to this. TANGK by Idols is one of my favorite albums ever. it brings joy. It brings joy,
It
man.
does.
And like Dancer is one of those songs where like, okay, it's the single, it has LCD sound system on it. I get it. That's why I don't love it so much, but I get it. Now going back after many months having not heard the album, I love it more than ever. It's like if you don't like that song, you're out of your goddamn gourd, dude.
I don't dance. Well, maybe if like a cute girl. I danced 3 times this year at a wedding, and then twice at I will fucking like. Ariana has like seen me dance and she like she's all our friend. Yeah. She's always trying to get me dance. And she's like seen me do it like willingly twice now. Like,
look at that, dude. That's how it
like that's how fucking powerful this band is, and like how personal like that connection I feel to them. So, and
I still, it's funny. I still remember when you first discovered them. We're like, oh, check out this band. It was like this casual, like, oh, they're kind of punky. They're pretty cool. And they've grown into this. Our beautiful boys have grown into this spectacular rock band.
I really like loved that album, but seeing them live with you, that completely like it completely changed my perspective of the vibes at that show. I've never even at other Idol shows. I think now they're too big.
Yeah.
So like just by its nature, you're gonna get assholes. That Wiltern show will stay with me forever. This like the vibe, and it just felt like everybody had each other's backs. And like when he bought that, when he's like, "Who's an immigrant?" and that guy was so fucking. He was so humbled and like joyed and like.
They brought a cake out for the bass player because it was his birthday, and then the crowd sang happy birthday to him.
And doing like it's so funny. Like Mike is a fly, like he's a wallflower at show. And I guess I am too, to a certain extent. And I forget what song it is, and they still do it. I'm just spacing the where they bring it down and they shout, and they encourage everyone to like crouch down. Like me and Mike did that on our
100%.
Yeah, not even like peer pressure. It's just like
it's just fun.
It's just fun. That's how fun this there's nobody. The band Fun isn't fun. Idols is fun. I hate that fucking band.
I never heard them. I'm glad now.
You would fucking I fucking hate. Yeah,
I'll take your word for it. Jesus Christ. So everyone, anybody who hasn't heard, I can't believe it's not being as well received, because it's just the world will respond the way the world does. Everyone has their own. Everyone's a fucking critic. Everyone's their own thing. Everyone's a voyeur. Everyone's everything. It doesn't matter. This is if you want some quality ass art, baby, that's just what you got to do. You got to go check out some idols.
People will pay for their sins. Probably me as well.
We're all gonna burn pretty hard for what we've done.
Well, not those sins. The sins of like not giving it up to this album.
But look what we've done in penance, so to speak. We have. This is the album of the year. Again, it's not ours, but it is. I think it's hard to really touch this one. It's just too fucking good. I mean, the fact it made both of our number one runner up. We've got a lot of overlap, a very interesting overlap. 3.
We had like 3 since the album of the year spot thing. Yeah.
3 synchronicities. It's pretty. This year is good music year. This is probably the best music year in the entire history of the pod.
Good ass year. I hate to give runner-ups, but I blew my load on a tie. Can only do that like once every 5 years.
Yeah, that's a special case.
Because it's just too novel. You can't.
Also, one thing, a couple weird little overlaps that I caught this year that I'm kind of curious about. 3 albums. One is the JPEG album, Knock Loose, and Cool World. All have big giant crosses on them at a 45-degree angle. That's weird.
It is weird. And I I don't know how I didn't make time for that JPEG album. That's
what I mean. The next thing, how the hell did that not make your list?
I just fucked up, and because it was, I made the mistake of like, of course I'm going to listen to it, and I just call me Michael McDonald because I kept forgetting.
Can't forget. It is very good.
I've heard phenomenal things about it.
Yeah, it's coming off of Scaring the Hose, which was my number one runner up last year. It is like way clean, way smoother, way easier on the ears and soul, but lovely, just absolutely lovely. The dude knows what he's doing, as
he does.
Should come as no surprise.
Yeah, one of the best like rapper producers ever.
Definitely. But that brings us to the end of another year. Happy New Year, everybody. This was a tough one. I was dreading it because hard. I knew it was hard.
There was too many good things.
Too many good things. This one took some of the most work I think I've put into one of these year-end episodes.
The amount of work you put into this is usually the amount of work I usually put into it.
Yeah.
But also we review albums now.
It was a lot easier. Yeah. We had a good chunk that we had already listened to, thankfully.
And life came at me the way it does. So like I'm not fucking around when I say like my honorable mentions to my album, everything's a 5-star album, and maybe that's too generous, but I really do feel that way.
Yeah, a lot of albums that really stung not having to take off the list, but I like my list. I like my list. It's a weird one. It's pretty all over the place, but yeah.
I don't like my lists because I like love too many things equally. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah. You don't love like the order of them, maybe.
And it like hurts me, and I know I didn't have time for the JPEG, so I like feel incomplete. I feel like I'm picking like a favorite child, but that's a good problem to it's not actually picking a favorite child. This is art. This is beautiful stuff that keeps us motivated and energized, and even if it's depressing like Beth Gibbons, it makes you reflect. And
sure does. Hell yes. So thank you all so much for listening and watching, and just sticking with us for another year of all this. Yeah, if you want to stick around, do the thing, like the video, all right? Leave some comments. Tell us why our picks are wrong and incorrect and why yours are correct. Actually, leave all your picks for your albums of the year. Yeah, your rankings. Maybe if you didn't listen to that many, just the one that stuck with you the most, or the ones that stuck with you the most. It as we've learned, it's not about it being this perfect album. It's about what resonated. I mean, to think that the fucking Neubauten album resonated that hard, I was not expecting that.
That's what I think getting older is actually. It's just acknowledging what hits you in the feels the most. I think that's what getting older is. Yeah.
I'm a man who reads Stoic philosophy. I appreciate the logic and the reasoning of things, and where that importance lies, whatever the hell the proper word for that is. But when you start to look at the things that stick around with you, the things that are most important, it's the things that have a certain essence that you can't exactly put into words, and that's ends up being some of the most important. These are things that kind of guide their way to that, things that find you. And sometimes it's a weird album that no one else will like, but it fucking you keep coming back to it. That's the stuff that makes life really kind of worth living. And that's my little waxing poetic of the day.
Nice, yeah.
But yeah, leave some comments, like the video, subscribe, do all the things. You can follow me on all social media at PanderMonkey, and Alex on Instagram at
Every Album Alex, and on Blue Sky I'm Octatron3030.
And don't forget to follow our history guy Tom Osmond at Tom Osmond Sounds on all social media, as well as TomOsmondSounds.com for his music and his podcast Whatever Comes Next, where he's interviewed he's interviewed stuff on my honorable mentions list for sure. He obviously interviewed stuff interviewed Buñuel for us. A lot of stuff like that in the spot. Very interesting stuff. Go check that out. My EP, check that out. Link in the description. And last but not least, baby, patreon.com/every album ever. That's where you go. You get bonus episodes, 2 bonus episodes a month. You get to see our schedules in advance. You get to vote on polls to decide who we cover next. You get to join our Discord and suggest albums for our EAE singles episodes. New Year is coming up, so there's not going to be a lot of new albums to pick from at the very beginning, but they'll start trickling in. And
well, that's what we thought last. That's what we thought last year, and
that's
like,
true. Yeah,
it came out like Satya Xeno was the first album and it made my honorable mentions.
that's true. Yeah. And there's already an album I'm keeping an eye on that comes out in January. So
perfect.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, people on Discord can throw those out for us and we'll make episodes on them. And if you're tier 2, if you're bigger than Jesus, then you could suggest a full discography for our bigger, longer numbered episodes. In addition to that, you can also suggest any amount of bonus episodes for us to cover on Patreon. So whatever, any random album, any discography, pick them out and we do bonus episodes on them. And I think that's about it for that. So go there and do that. That's very cool. Now, closing it out, we usually come together on a song.
I think there's 2 songs. It's either got to be Gift Horse or Dancer.
Because it's funny because this is the second time Tank will be the final song in a year that he
Idols.
didn't. Sorry, Idols.
Yeah.
We'll get final song when it didn't get album of the year for either one of us.
Yeah. Do you want to go like a different band since we've gone Idols before?
No, it has to.
Okay.
It has to be.
It has to be Idols. Yeah, you said it's the album of the year.
We already ended it with Dancer on the episode, so we can't do Dancer.
Gift Horse. It's Gift Horse.
Gift Horse or Roy.
You know,
my money's on Roy.
I feel like we've kept this theme of it's usually like these slower, more like sentimental songs, and I think Roy fits more in with like our traditional like closing it out year-end song. So let's go with Roy.
Hell yeah. So thank you so much for listening and watching. Happy New Year. See you guys next year. See ya.